The golden age of TV, or peak TV as the kids are calling it nowadays, has given us all a massive embarrassment of riches, where there's simply not enough time in a day to watch every awesome looking series you might come across. But the double-edged sword of this content avalanche is that it becomes incredibly easy for even superbly crafted TV shows to end up slipping through the cracks. So, with that being said, I'm Jem from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 of the best new TV shows nobody's watching. Number 10. Ripley. Netflix's lavish Andrew Scott starring adaptation of Patricia Highsmith's classic thriller novel The Talented Mr. Ripley is a sumptuous monochromatic feast of a limited series, with Scott giving arguably the finest screen rendition of psychopath Tom Ripley to date. Despite the series scoring strong reviews for Scott's performance, supporting turns by Johnny Flynn and Dakota Fanning, the gorgeous cinematography and writing, Ripley debuted at just the 6th spot during its first full week on release and scored the worst opening for a Netflix limited series released on a Thursday. That's pretty damning for an adaptation of a beloved novel starring an extremely popular on-the-rise actor. It's been quite persuasively speculated that showrunner Steven Zalian's decision to shoot the series in black and white placed a low ceiling on its viewership, given the unfortunate, even frustrating trend for many modern viewers to shy away from monochrome media. But the closed-minded many have only deprived themselves of one of the most deliciously shot, impeccably acted shows of the year so far. That's a great shame. Number 9. Mure Spade. A new TV series based on the legendary private detective Sam Spade, most famously played by Humphrey Bogart in classic film noir The Maltese Falcon, is one hell of an inspired idea. All the more so with Clive Owen playing the role of Spade and the show being co-developed by Scott Frank and Tom Fontana. Yet despite being a gripping neo-noir and firm showcase for the criminally underrated Owen's acting chops, Mure Spade came and went with barely a peep at the start of the year. Even accepting that AMC is historically terrible at promoting any of their shows that don't have The Walking Dead in the title, a series with this pedigree, and that's this damn entertaining no less, shouldn't have vanished from the cultural conversation quite so fast. It's Clive Owen at his slick best, investigating a series of murders in the gorgeous south of France. What more could fans of hard-boiled detective fiction possibly want? Number 8. Under the Bridge. Hulu's Under the Bridge boasted a compelling hook from the jump, a true criminal dramatization of 14-year-old Rena Verk's tragic 1997 murder, with lead roles in the miniseries played by the brilliant Lily Gladstone and Riley Keough. First and foremost, Under the Bridge deserves enormous credit for not letting Verk's name get lost amid the true crime gloss. You're certainly not going to come away from the series struggling to remember who she is. The entire cast sings, though it's recent Oscar nominee Gladstone who becomes the easy standout as Cam Bentland, the cop leading the investigation into Verk's murder. Despite drawing strong acclaim from critics, viewing figures were fairly middling, with early episodes struggling to outpace Netflix's Three Body Problem and The Gentleman, two shows which had been out for a month beforehand. But the big culprit was likely Netflix's surprise mega hit Baby Reindeer, which released mere days before Under the Bridge kicked off and basically sucked all the oxygen out of the room for the solid month. All the same, given the superb performances and importance of its story, Under the Bridge deserved more than just a short moment in the spotlight. Number 7. Phantasmas. One of the most unique shows of the year so far, or any year really, is Phantasmas. It's the wonderfully unhinged brainchild of writer-director-star Julio Torres. A mere synopsis can't even begin to do this series justice, which blends social satire with off-the-wall surrealism to bewildering effect. Phantasmas begins with a quasi-fictionalized version of Torres himself searching for a lost golden oyster earring, yet this ultimately just lays the track for the many outlandish scenarios and colourful characters he encounters throughout his journey. And he's roped in one hell of an ensemble cast to plunge down this rabbit hole with him, including most memorably Steve Buscemi, Emma Stone, Tilda Swinton and Dylan O'Brien. Though Phantasmas only launched in early June, it still feels like it's barely being discussed at all outside of this cult fandom, despite being one of the most visionary and downright fascinating series in recent memory. Number 6. A Gentleman in Moscow. Yet further proof that being based on a worldwide best-selling novel is no guarantee of success. This adaptation of Amor Towles' historical drama novel A Gentleman in Moscow failed to make a dent when it aired on Paramount Plus this past spring. It's all the more surprising given not only the general acclaim for the limited series, but also Ewan McGregor's casting in the role of protagonist Count Alexander. Novel adaptations are catnip for Hollywood, and when they're done well, they potentially have an immediately inbuilt audience of millions, and yet this one slid from view within days of finishing up its run. It's a shame because it's a bold and sumptuous translation of Towles' novel, which is brilliantly charming with McGregor at the fore. At least this limited series is a complete adaptation of the novel, so it was always intended to be a one and done affair. Number 5. Interview with the Vampire. Now, as you might realise, Interview with the Vampire has actually just wrapped up its second series, so it's not brand new, but it is nevertheless a new-ish series that desperately needs more eyes on it if it's going to survive long term. The first season served up an acclaimed remix of Anne Rice's beloved source material, reworking vampiric protagonist Louis de Pointe-du-Lac as a black man while amping up the queer themes of Rice's novel, which were largely only implied in the 1994 movie. Ratings were already so-so for the first season, but season 2's viewership immediately fell off a cliff, with most episodes struggling to muster half of season 1's average views. It's especially disheartening given that season 2 has received even wider acclaim than the first, and with Rice's source novel being so widely known, it's baffling that this show isn't doing better. Then again, it is the promotion allergic AMC at the helm, so not that baffling. Number 4. We Were the Lucky Ones. We Were the Lucky Ones adapts Georgia Hunter's 2017 book of the same name, chronicling the life and times of the Kirks, a family of Polish Jews as they attempt to survive the Holocaust. What the show's 8 episodes miniseries treatment does so well is demonstrate how slowly the noose tightened around Poland, leaving the Kirk family scrambling to escape whatever corner of the world they could. Despite being based on a New York Times bestseller, the series passed most by in short order. Perhaps because, much like AMC, Hulu aren't exactly the best at banging the drum for their own original content, and so if it misses out on an awards buzz later in the year, they'll have only themselves to blame. Number 3. The Big Cigar. Apple's The Big Cigar is a riveting dramatisation of the manhunt for the Black Panther Party founder Huey P. Newton, as he fled to Cuba from the US in 1974 to escape a murder charge, with the help of film producer Bert Schneider. Less concerned with the nuances of why Newton was on the run in the first place, The Big Cigar splits the difference between historical document and tense Argo-esque thriller, in which Newton desperately attempts to make his way clear of the FBI's long reach with the help of Schneider's titular fake film production. Above all else though, the show is a stellar acting showcase for the great Andre Holland, who brings shade and dimension to Newton throughout. Launch week viewing figures were absolutely dire however, coming in lower than Severance in Canada, a show which aired well over 2 years ago. Perhaps it speaks to Newton being an underrepresented figure in the public sphere, or the show's title giving audiences little inkling of what it's actually about. Number 2. The Sympathizer. Quite how an A24 produced HBO miniseries featuring Robert Downey Jr. playing numerous roles from legendary filmmaker Park Chan-wook, no less, managed to fly totally under the radar earlier this year is anyone's guess. The Sympathizer, an adaptation of the brilliant Pulitzer Prize-winning novel of the same name, is a bold, ferocious translation of its source text, following a North Vietnamese spy who infiltrates the South Vietnam Army and later flees to the US near the end of the Vietnam War. With its acclaimed source material and juicy supporting parts for Downey, how is this thing being glossed over? Some laid the blame at HBO themselves for not adequately marketing it, while others pointed to the impenetrable nature of the novel and sheer weirdness of Downey playing numerous villain roles. Either way, The Sympathizer sank like a stone week on week before wrapping up in late May. In the very least, it was always conceived as a limited series adaptation of the novel, so it can forgo the indignity of being cancelled. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, drop us a like, share and subscribe too. And number 1, Gerald Carmichael reality show. Now, in complete fairness, it's at least easier to appreciate why Gerald Carmichael reality show isn't going to be for everyone, not even for all fans of the comedian. But what's an all docuseries following Carmichael as he goes about his life may not sound like appointment CV, but what is interesting is the probing intimacy with which he allows us into his life. Carmichael lets his fans observe him in a manner so distinctly unflattering and unvarnished that his series lets you question the genuine reality of it all. Not unlike Nathan Fielder's brilliantly experimental The Rehearsal, there's a clear metatextual element to the show, practically begging the audience to consider why they keep watching something so discomfortingly raw. And so it's perhaps not the biggest shock in the world that the series failed to gain much ratings traction at all, and has basically been forgotten already by all but Carmichael's most die-hard fans. But for those craving something challenging while waiting for Fielder to cook up his next project, it's one hell of a fascinating reality TV car crash.